on that footprint on the hill, then take that whole thing, put Collins out of that fit.
This is an acceptable.
But you know what? If there's 3 minutes left, we don't have an office to speak of. 3 more offices in there. It's not going to add a hell of a lot to what we're talking about. I think everybody in the office thinks we're wrong. We got 3 over there.
$120 a square foot.
Look at that. I'm basically.
No, you're right. You don't have to touch it. Yeah, you're right.
It's all here.
You're right. It's just going to look right there. I mean, it might not look bad day 1, but year 10, it'll look bad.
Just I mean,
It will. It will look like a print.
Maybe one, yeah.
it's just really not a good way. It'll come.
I mean, and it'll be tall even if we stick it there. Probably it'll be tall still. Better than slapping you in the face when you drive down the road.
That needs to be anything. As close as it is to town. It needs to be residential.
Yeah. We're giving up a huge opportunity cost there for something. I don't know what it is, but it's something.
Here we go.
Good evening, everyone, and I want to welcome you to the June 17th meeting of the Rome City Commission. We start every meeting off with an invocation and pledge to the flag. And tonight that honor goes to former Mayor Jamie Doss. If you will, stand with us, and Commissioner Doss.
And I have asked Deacon Bobby Owens if he would deliver our prayer tonight. Deacon.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for your doing, for you've already been good and to guide us around danger seen and unseen. And we give you praise, honor, and glory. Now, Lord, we ask that you be with us as we conduct business of the city of Rome. Touch each commissioner. You know what they stand in the need of. Touch every representative, whatever they represent. You know what they stand in the need of. Now, God, bless our community as you know how. Use these people as instruments that we can make a better Rome, Floyd County, here in the state of Georgia. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Deacon. Please address the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, if you will, call the roll.
Sir. Mayor McDaniel.
Here.
Commissioner Bojo.
Here.
Brock.
Here.
Cochran.
Here.
Beeman. Doss.
here.
Quick.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
You all received the minutes of our June 10th, 2024 meeting, and we will approve those by common consent. We have one proclamation tonight, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Elena Beeman if she will read that proclamation.
I'd like to ask the June 10th committee or the representative. It gives me great honor and pleasure to present this proclamation on behalf of the city commissioners. And it reads, whereas on June the 19th, 1865, Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger landed on the shores of Galveston, Texas, to declare that the Civil War had been ended and all those enslaved in the South were now free. Although President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation had been issued more than 2 years prior, Union troops had previously been unable to fully enforce the order. And whereas one of the oldest American holidays, Juneteenth, commemorates the freeing of formerly enslaved individuals and their descendants, it has historically been a time of prayer, reflection, and family reunion. And whereas Juneteenth also highlights the artistic and intellectual achievements collectively preserved through the pre- and post-Middle Passages, the slave trade, the Emancipation Era, and the Civil Rights Movement, as well as more recent accomplishments of African American cultural expressions. And whereas, although Juneteenth is specific to the emancipation of African descendants, its message promotes the continued freedom and economic prosperity of individuals from all races, colors, creeds, and cultures. And whereas it is an honor to recognize the holiday of Juneteenth in the city of Rome and acknowledges the suffering, trials, and tribulations of all those African descendants. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Craig McDaniel, Mayor of the City of Rome, along with the Rome City Commissioners, would like to recognize and honor the observance and celebration on June the 19th, 2024 as Juneteenth. Giving my hand and seal the 7th day of June in the year of the Lord, 2024. It was an honor, it was a pleasure, and we celebrated. Congratulations. Oh.
I would like to say on behalf of the Rome Florida NAACP and the Juneteenth Committee, we accept this proclamation. Thank you for thinking enough of us to give us this proclamation. However, I would like to say, speaking as president on behalf of the Rome Florida NAACP, I am totally disappointed that only a few of our city representatives supported us. We want to make Rome great. We must lose hatred and participate with all races of people from all walks of life. I do accept this on behalf of the NAACP, and we'll share it with other committees that are, organizations that are supporting Juneteenth. And to the members of the leadership of Rome that did support the Rome Florida NAACP, City Manager, we thank you. The Police Department and others, we thank you. Have a great day.
Mr. Mayor, if I might say a word or two.
Sir, Commissioner Collins.
I just want to say to the committee of Juneteenth, as well as Commissioner Beaman and myself being of African American, I couldn't be more proud of the work that you guys do. A lot of times, I know I had to sit in the meeting today and hear from my colleague to my left, as well as one of his other colleagues that visited the parade. Unfortunately, I was out of the state, but at the same time, I think it was Wayne and who else was it? Harry. Brock, which is two new members of this here committee. So your word don't fall on deaf ear. At least the two new commissioners was there in support of you guys. And any time that we can be of support of whatever it is that you're doing, we want to be right there for you. I would say, want to take that a step further, you guys don't know how much we appreciate your service to this city. It may look like it fall on deaf ears, but rest assured, we understand and know what you're trying to accomplish, and we want to be right there for you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to at least extend this opportunity to this group. Thank y'all.
Thank you for your comments.
Commissioner, Mr. Mayor, can I say something?
Yes, Commissioner
First,
Beaman.
I wanted to say that, you know how you want to stay in your lane, but I was so busy trying to support in every category for every day, trying to be there, that I took for granted the commissioners. I could have done a better job by sharing the information with each and every one of you. I know that we go out of our way for MLK, but this has been our 3rd year, and I just assume that all the information was put out there. So to our newspaper, to Doug Walker, to Mr. Bailey, and to our other commissioners, this point on, from this day on, I promise you'll have an agenda, okay?
Thank you.
You all right?
Thank you.
May I please say one other thing?
Go,
All right.
Dalisa, if you
Go
will,
to
go
the
to the
podium,
podium so
Dalisa.
we can hear you.
I would like to say that we did send information to the Rome News Tribune for the community calendar. I sent it in plenty of time. Mr. Bailey and I had a personal conversation, and he said that anytime that we were doing anything and needed his assistance, to please contact him. Apparently, that email got lost. It was sent the 1st of May. Mayor Craig McDaniel also received an email from my personal email. So, Commissioner Beamer, we appreciate everything that you have done, still doing, and will do in the future, and all of you all that are supporting us. But it is heartbreaking when your city leaders, the head of the leadership, does not support it. Not even a regret that we get, you know, and thank you.
We have no registered guests, we have no resolutions, we have nothing on first reading, nothing on second reading, nothing continued on first reading, but we do have a number of public hearings, and I'll call on Commissioner Randy Quick.
First item is C-240604. It is a request to rezone from community commercial to low-density traditional residential for the properties at 111, 113, and 115 Lookout Circle, Rome, Georgia 30161. Floyd County tax parcels J14E118, J14E119, and J14E120. Planning Commission recommends approval 9-0, and Bryce, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. The three applicant parcels are outlined on your screen. They front on Lookout Circle. They have always been zoned community commercial. However, they have very little commercial use. They sit on what is effectively a one-lane, one-way road. They also have a great deal of topography. They're all also just shy of a quarter acre in size. They have much more developability as single-family lots, and you still have commercial options along the corridor. This also has the potential to protect the Mount Aventine community from any sort of commercial encroachment. Here you have the application itself. This is looking into one of them. As you can see, the road drops off just beyond, or the property drops off just beyond the road. This is looking back. And in the opposite direction, the properties are being asked to be rezoned for the purposes of marketing them for sale. This does come with a staff recommendation of approval as well as a 9-0 approval from the Planning Commission. Thank you, sir.
I now declare the public hearing open. Is anyone here to speak in favor of the request? Is anyone here to speak in opposition to the request? I close the public hearing and I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, you're here to speak in favor of? If you will, go to the podium and give us your name and address. You've got 10 minutes.
My name is Christ Searsant. My address is 7325 Island Mill Road in Ackworth, Georgia. I own these three properties and was looking to rezone them for sale. About as simple.
Anyone else speak in favor of? Anyone speak in opposition? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we approve this request to rezone from community commercial to low-density traditional residential.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion to my right? Any discussion to my left? Ms. Clerk, call the roll.
Sir. Commissioner Bojo?
Yes.
Brock?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Beeman?
Yes.
Dawes.
Yes.
Quick,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Can I ask Bryce a question? Bryce, is there any more of that property up there zone commercial?
There's one or two, yes. And we've been in touch with those property owners and offered to fix it multiple times.
Commissioner Quick?
Item B is SUP 24-06-08. It is a request for a special use permit for duplexes being zoned for high-density traditional residential for the property at 205 ABC Reservation Street, Rome, Georgia 30161. Floyd County Tax Parcel J131190. Comes with the Planning Commission and recommendation of approval 9-0. And Bryce?
Yes, sir. The applicant property is outlined on your screen. This image shows a house on the property. It is no longer there. This is a 2019 image. It is currently a vacant lot. The entire neighborhood is zoned high-density traditional residential. There are multiple old duplexes and whatnot throughout the neighborhood, throughout North Rome in general. The applicants would be asking to build a brand-new one. This is the application itself. Plat of the property. A rough sketch of what one could look like, sort of a shotgun style. This is looking in from the road, further up the road. Just to give you an idea of some of the other housing in the area. This does come with a staff recommendation of approval that at least one unit face the road to match the character of the neighborhood, and the Planning Commission chose to approve by a vote of 9-0. Thank you.
I declare the public hearing open. Is anyone here to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? I close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion that we approve the recommendation request with the item that Bryce mentioned of at least one facing.
I have one quick question. How many, I'm sorry.
A motion and second. Any discussion, am I right?
I just wanted to ask Bryce one question. How many units are they proposing to put on them?
Just one duplex, so 2 units.
2 units, okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion on my left?
Bryce, what precisely do you mean by one facing the front?
We've seen more and more where people, for whatever reason, want to turn them sideways. So that means either one on top of the other, have them back to back. There's multiple ways that could be accomplished. And as a matter of fact, our site plan even shows it, but that site plan is also, it's going to have some setback issues, so it's subject to change.
And so the floor plan that they proposed where they split it with a shotgun, that's not?
No, that would meet it. It would meet it, but
Okay.
it's also incumbent upon them getting a variance or 2.
Okay, so I'm just trying to clarify what the front means. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have one other question. Bryce,
Yes, sir.
I know you said two duplexes?
1 duplex, 2 units.
That clarifies it for me.
There are no other questions. Mr. Clerk, if you will, call the roll.
Sir. Commissioner Bojo,
Yes.
Rock. Yes. Cochran,
Yes.
Beeman,
Yes.
Dawes,
Yes.
Quick,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes?
Robinson.
Yes.
Next is item C. It is Z24-06-11. It's a request to rezone from office institutional to neighborhood office commercial for the properties at 501 East First Street and 501 East First Street in Rome. Georgia 30161, Floyd County Tax Parcel J14C167 and J14C168. Comes with a recommendation from the Planning Commission, 9-0. And Bryce, if you would, please.
All right, the 2 applicant parcels are outlined on your screen. The one on the left is one of our historic homes within the historic district. Many of these, as you know, have been converted to office space. This gentleman is seeking the flexibility to be able to use it as either or both. The other one is just a parking lot with a little bit of a deck on it. This gentleman currently has an office in the building. but would like to live in it as well, or have a dwelling unit within it. If you notice this entire block, most of which is old houses, you currently can't live in any of these except the one next door, which is already in OC. That one was rezoned about a year or so ago by David Goldenshoe. So while most of these are currently not being used as residential, they're not even allowed to be anymore, which I think is problematic. NOC does allow for you to go back or forth or use it as both potentially. This is the application itself. This is looking into the property from the road. He initially talked about possibly doing some sort of garage on the vacant lot with a deck above it, up at the height of the house. I believe that project has since been scrapped. Looking further up the hill. Looking next door at the property that was already approved. And directly across the street. This does come with a staff recommendation of approval as well as a 9-0 approval from the Planning Commission. Thank you.
I'd like a second.
I'll open the public hearing. Is anyone here to speak in favor of the proposal? If you will, go to the podium and give us your name and address. You have 10 minutes.
My name is Billy Huggins. The address is 508 East First Street, and I'm just wanting to live there and have an office space there. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish with that piece of property. That's it.
Anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? I close the public hearing, and
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion that we approve this recommendation.
I'll second now.
have a motion and a second. Any questions to my right? Any questions to my left?
One question, Mr. Mayor, for Bryce.
Yes, sir.
So the reason this zoning exists now, since everybody, or at least a lot of people work from home, which essentially makes everybody's house an NOC to a certain extent.
So, somewhat, yes.
Is they can go back to just solely an office.
They could.
Whereas in a normal residential, you can't.
Correct.
Okay.
It's essentially a neighborhood mixed-use option.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Clerk, call the roll.
Sir. Commissioner Bojo,
Yes.
Brock. Yes. Cochran,
Yes.
Beeman,
Yes.
Doss.
Yes.
Quick,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes?
Robinson.
Yes.
Next is item D, which is Z24-06-13. It's a request to rezone from neighborhood office commercial to community commercial for the property at 401 Glen Milner Boulevard, Rome, Georgia 30161, Floyd County Tax Parcel J14C288. It comes with a Planning Commission denial of 9-0, and Bryce, I'll ask you to give us more information.
Yes, sir. So the applicant property is outlined on your screen. As you can see, it's not relevant to the zoning, but it is in the floodplain. It's part of our historic district, Between the Rivers Historic District. The building long predates the ULDC. This came about when a beauty salon came in trying to get a business license, and unfortunately I had to turn it down because it's currently not allowed in NOC. This is at least the third such instance where I've had to turn down a business license. And the idea is that NOC is intended for, sort of a light commercial, light retail, light office space, things that would complement a neighborhood and potentially be an asset to the neighborhood or an amenity. I've never understood why beauty shops are not allowed in NOC because, you've got a whole lot of potential customers within walking distance. They don't generate a lot of noise. They don't generate a ton of traffic. They don't generate drunkenness or anything undesirable. However, staff has a great deal of concerns about putting community commercial adjacent to established neighborhoods. It has always been a concern of mine. So I am concerned about that. I do recommend denial of the application to rezone. However, as you'll see later down the agenda, I would like to propose an ordinance amendment to allow for the beauty shop under the current zoning category. There's where I turn them down. This is looking into the property as it currently sits. It is non-conforming in multiple ways, even under the current zoning. And that's just based on its age when it was developed. So this does come with a staff recommendation of denial as well as a planning commission recommendation of denial.
I'll open the public hearing. Is anyone here to speak in favor of the application? speak in opposition? I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we go along with the recommendation of our Planning Commission in the denial of this application.
Motion, need a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
Just a quick question to Bryce.
Yes, sir.
I'm following you on your recommendation to go along with the planning commission. But I'm also hearing what you want to do for us changing the ordinance. Are you saying to us that you want to go ahead and get this business out of the way and you're going to turn around and make a recommendation for the ordinance?
Yes, sir. Staff helped draft the ordinance, and we do recommend approval of it.
Have we seen it yet? It's in the agenda.
It's in your packet. I'm not sure who's seen it, though.
I see where you got it there, but I guess I'm just going to have to wait on the language. Okay.
All right.
You know, I just got one comment on that, is this building has been a commercial used building as long as I can remember. I mean, it's definitely not going to ever be reverted back to residential. So a commercial use is a commercial use. If it's not industrial, to me, I think a beauty shop is a very, like you said earlier, very low use, no noise, no contamination, no any of this. I don't have a problem rezoning it to allow for that, not even just for them, but for down the road, whoever else might use it.
So if I read this and understand this right, we're looking at D, but when we get to G, you're asking us to approve this for what they're asking for.
That is correct. Staff is not opposed to the property being used as a beauty salon. We are opposed to the zoning because of all the other things that community commercial allows. That's anything from fast food to liquor stores to hotels, and that property is self-limiting in that its size, its floodplain status, you know, it's very limited in what it's going to be anyways. Rezoning it would simply make it more non-conforming because you're going to a category with bigger setbacks, you know, whatnot.
So, your item G, when we get to that, if we do that amendment, then from this point forward, beauty shops will be allowed.
They could come back in tomorrow and apply for a new business license. Right. Yes, sir.
But if I read that correctly, they won't have to
require rezoning.
rezone.
Correct.
Can you tell me what that rezone request is going to be?
I'm sorry?
Could you tell me what this ordinance change is going to be?
It prevents them from needing a rezoning. We basically gave them an alternative avenue to success.
Well, help me out. What status would they be in? You disalign community commercial. So what would they go to?
Nothing. It stays as is. They can just open.
Well, I hope you prepared, because there's probably a lot of people watching exactly this action that you're about to commence on. And there's going to be a great deal of others going to come right behind them and going to ask you to do that same action. Are you taking this on your own to be the judge and jury?
Yes, and as I said, this is the third time we've had to turn down a business, so this is not being taken lightly, but we're observing a trend that seems to be forming.
I think that's very dangerous.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, I think neighborhood, the NOC may be restrictive in some areas, and basically you're removing, beauty shops and salons are basically non-harmful type businesses. They don't sell alcohol, they don't have ding-ding machines, it's basically service, low-level services. And so removing this restriction and putting it in NOC, they don't have to go before the planning commission going forward. They just come into the business license.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So office and institutions, what it becomes.
No, sir, it'll stay NOC. He's recommending that we change the table of permitted uses to allow this use in the current NOC zone.
Anything that's NOC.
Okay. I can understand that.
Without having to go before the planning commission.
Are there any other properties around it that could, if we did change the zoning, come in and ask for a change on theirs as well? well. And you said it could go into a fast food or anything like that. The zoning, the setback requirements and all that would, if this building burned down, it won't ever be anything else there because there's no room for a setback.
Without some sort of variances, you're correct. I mean, it's about as legal non-conforming as they come.
Yeah.
Can't be real.
But the building,
Floodplain.
but the building behind it could come in for office and institution, they could become an office, correct?
I believe there's a vacant lot behind it.
But it could.
There's not a lot of space behind it.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's enough space to be buildable, but in theory, yes.
So we've got a motion and a second before us to deny the request. If there's no other discussion, Mr. Clerk, if you will call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Bojo?
Yes, to deny. Is that?
Yes.
Okay,
Vote yes is to deny.
okay.
Cochran?
Yes.
Beeman?
Yes.
Dawes?
Yes.
Quick?
Yes.
Collins?
Yes?
Robinson?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Quick.
Next, we have item E. It is Z24-06-14. It is a request to rezone from high-density traditional residential to multifamily residential for the property at Hardy Avenue, Rome, Georgia 30161, Floyd County Tax Parcel I14Z079. And the Planning Commission had an 8-1 denial. Bryce?
All right, so this application actually goes with the next one. So this application is for this property that fronts on Hardy Avenue. The next one is for the adjacent property that fronts on South Broad Street. For any of this to be possible, the applicant would have to merge the two properties together, and he is seeking multifamily residential to develop a townhouse development. As you can see, there are multiple other multifamily residential properties in the immediate area. Not long ago, we did this property over here where the house had burned down and did a townhouse development on it. It was approved for 18 units with the condition that they face the road and that the garages would wind up being in the rear. And a lot of that was because of the peculiar shape of the property. In this case, the applicant is proposing 28 units as shown on the site plan, which is just conceptual. And I'll zoom out here so you can see this better. So this is a rough conceptual site plan. So this would be South Broad Street over here, and Hardy Avenue would be just back here. As you can see, it doesn't quite connect to Hardy Avenue, and that was something that the applicant and I discussed. I feel like years ago, we should have connected long before this gentleman came along, just to give some better traffic flow. In this case, he is proposing potentially a gated community. Staff had a couple concerns that because it's one way in and one way out, that means, you know, your fire truck and all that will have to back out, or your garbage truck will have to back out onto South Broad. These were provided at the last minute, some renderings of what they could look like. This is the application itself. This is looking into the property from the end of Hardy Avenue where the road just sort of stops. Looking back up Hardy Avenue, you do have multiple properties down there. They're in various states of neglect. We did get a call from a gentleman on Hardy Avenue asking that the road not be connected. I believe a couple of the neighbors on South Broad spoke at the Planning Commission. They were concerned about the fact that if the units face inward, then that means they will potentially have, you know, a handful of either decks or patios facing their properties. They reside here and here. One of the concerns that Planning Commission expressed was that the site plan was received at the last minute, therefore the other departments didn't have a chance to comment. However, you know, this development will have to meet the ULDC, or it won't get built, or the other option is to apply for variances. So, I mean, they're not getting away with anything, but this does come with a staff recommendation of approval. Since I was going to be out of town, I was very lenient on this. I do believe, and we've always enforced, that if you're going to add something different to the neighborhood, at least kind of make it blend to a certain extent so it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. It would be better if at least 3 units face South Broad Street, just because it matches the development pattern of the neighborhood. That staff would very much appreciate that, but this does come with a staff recommendation of approval. It comes with a recommendation of denial from the Planning Commission. Thank you.
I'll open the public hearing. Is anyone here to speak in favor? If you will go to the podium, you have 10 minutes. Give us your name and address, please.
Scott McLean, 116 Linton Street, Woodstock, Georgia. I'm currently under contract to purchase this piece of property and do this development. I am also the owner of the piece across the street that has the 18 units. Very well, we've worked very closely with Bryce on turning some units, and yes, this was, the site plan was developed under kind of a time contingency based off the fact that we are under contract on the property, and we are unable to purchase the property without the zoning to come through for the townhouse development. I have no problem turning those 3 units to face forward in separation of some buildings. I have no problem with where the playground is designated in the house to the left behind the kiosk, doing a heavy landscape screening or variances or those types of contingencies to make sure that the neighbors feel that there's proper trees and separation between their boundaries. I spoke to the surveyor last week upon me seeing this original plat, that pushing the houses back towards the setback limits, yes, that does move them closer to the neighbors, but that allows more road frontage for the emergency vehicles, creating a bigger cul-de-sac down in the bottom that would allow an emergency vehicle to be able to turn around and not have to back out. We're not opposed to some form of fencing going around the property to help with the buffer and those kind of things. So we're open to any and all recommendations from the council or from the City Planning Commission with regard to how to appease the neighbors with some screening and those kind of things. We do feel that adding these 28 units in conjunction with the 18 across the street allows us to put the community into a more formal HOA, have more funding for improvements and those kind of things within the project, those kind of aspects that do come up when you have more than 18 units to play with. We did just currently apply for an LDP across the street, so we are progressing with the community of the 18 units that are on the other side and hope that we can come in conjunction with these as we follow through with those 18. As far as conceptually goes, I have no problem adding, there's no plan for these to just be brick townhouses, just the kind of the plain Jan look. I'm very comfortable adding board and batten, siding, shake, and those kind of aspects to the house to give it a more community feel. There is an old historic home on the property that is dilapidated. It does need to be torn down. It cannot be, I don't want to say it couldn't be rebuilt because money can rebuild anything, but without significant money thrown at it, that product cannot be rebuilt. I have no problem working with the Historic Commission if they'd like to come in and take some of the aspects of the home as a charity donation to whatever they may want to try to save. I have no problem working closely with them before any of that demolition may occur for the property to go in.
Anyone else here to speak in favor? If you will, give us your name and address, please.
My name is Matthew Sapira, and my address is 5980 Willow Oak Pass, Cumming, Georgia, 30040. Apologize, I'm a little nervous, so. I'm the owner of 808 South Broad Street, which is the property in the front. I think, as Scott said, this would be a great project for the overall community. Also, as you've seen, there are other properties that were rezoned MR in the area there. Also, South Meadow Apartments was rezoned a couple years ago. Also, the location of this project, where it is. I know we have a neighbor to the right that had some concerns, but also just the location is sort of a mixed area. We have a house to the right. We do have a funeral home to the right over here too. We do have the Etowah Landing Nursing Home right across the street from this entrance. To the left of us, we have a really rundown triplex, and then we have a church. So the reason why I point that out is it's not like we're right down on Hardy Avenue or Pennington Avenue deep into that part of South Rome. So I think the location would be great, and I think it would add great value and some additional housing that I think would be beneficial to the city of Rome. Thank you.
Is anyone here to speak in opposition? If you will give us your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Joe
You have
Wright.
10 minutes.
814 South Broad Street, Wright Memorial Mortuary. I think I saw you before. Did I talk to you before at the funeral home? Yes. That was him. That was you, exactly. I just wanted to know about the location to my mom's house, which is 812 South Broad, the brick house right there where the playground is. Now, is that, you know, she has the big tree there. It's right next to the old house. Is that where the playground's going to be? And is that interfering with her yard or her, you know, she's an elderly lady, and I just don't want her to, you know, get distressed. Sometimes she'll have sundown syndrome or whatever, and, you know, if there's a lot of activity or things like that, it may disturb her and make it very difficult for us to kind of deal with her in that sense. And also, too, as it comes down past that, then the funeral home, when we're having, like, wakes and things like that, where people are parked, I noticed you mentioned having a privacy fence. Does that extend all the way down? And how tall is the fence? And there's a ditch right there. Is it on our side of the ditch or on the other side of the ditch? And my mother's driveway at the house up front is really bucked right next to the property line. In fact, there's two bushes right there that really defines the line. And I wonder if those parking spots, are they going to buck up against that, or will it interfere with the drive right there? Okay? Those I want to know about.
No, you still got,
You have 5 minutes of rebuttal time left. Mr. Wright, you still have 8 minutes.
Yeah, I'm finished with what I was asking about. Okay?
There's more rebuttals, I'll let them go ahead and speak.
you will give us your name and address, please?
Yes, sir. Marquita Davis. My address is 507 Cotton Avenue. I'd like to speak as a member of the South Rome Community Association. We, as a group, have had several residents voice a concern about the number of units and the amount of traffic that's going to be there. In addition to the concern with the funeral home, about how the cars will be there. There's usually a lot of cars on the sides of the street there for services, and then with this community being set up the way it is, we feel like there's going to be a lot of traffic jams and other concerns that multiple residents have voiced. And I'm the secretary for the South Rome Community Association, and so I just wanted to voice that on behalf of the residents in that area. Thank you.
Anyone else speak in opposition? Okay, you've still got 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I'll address the parking concerns first, and I'm sorry, it was the South Rome Community Association. Right, so currently the driveways are set up, they're 25 foot in length. So, and as we push those buildings back, I think that there's ample opportunity. There won't be any outside parking of the residents outside of the community. So I don't see any, I think that South Broad there doesn't really have any parking along South Broad Street currently the way it is. So I would assume that all residents would park within the community and, or within their driveways, and then a couple of additional spots. Currently, when we undertook this, we did think that there was going to be more like 35 lots, and we kind of necked it down to fit this based off the detention pond. And we actually pushed the units back. If you look at where 18 started, because of the close proximity of the house next to the funeral home, we pushed that back. Where that first angle goes to the left by the playground, that is the back corner of her property line. So there is no units directly in relation to her. So we pushed those units back just the way it kind of situated and fell within the community. As far as the services and stuff like that occur with the funeral home, if there's traffic along South Broad, based off of a funeral being in progression, really that's, I don't want to say that's not an issue of the community, that's more overflow from the funeral home. And if that parking is occurring, then that's really not, it would be more of us complaining to the funeral home if there's too many cars out there versus our community causing a traffic jam out front. As far as your mother's view towards the playground was just a conceptual piece that wasn't a requirement. It doesn't have to be a playground. If there's feel that there's not a need for that, it could be an open gazebo, it could be more parking for the mail kiosk, whatever it may, it could be a dog park if there's concern about overages. And that's something that as we meet with the Planning Commission and Bryce, and they decide what they want to recommend, we're open to any and all of that, or we can scratch the playground to have more parking if that's what people feel needs to be done. As far as the privacy fence or the fence goes, any fencing would be on our property because it would be maintained by the HOA that would ultimately own or take over the ownership of the properties. So, and the landscaping and trees and stuff, those would be planted in a way that create a barrier from a view. It creates a sound barrier. It creates a visual barrier between the houses and the funeral home parking lot. And if the parking lot does in fact back up to the property line there, then we probably would recommend a privacy fence for visual aspects, as well as I'm sure that the homeowners in there aren't going to want to look directly through their backyards at parking cars coming in and out all the time too. So happy to work with the city council or the planning commission with regard to those aspects. The retention pond in the back left corner, if you're familiar with that property, it does drop off to the back. It is wooded back there. It just makes the perfect sense that that is where the detention pond stays, and that's where the easiest flow of the water to get to that back corner is why it's drawn there. Oftentimes around those detention ponds is heavy landscaping as well, because as that water filters through, it needs natural wildlife stuff to get through there. So that's kind of, there'll be additional plantings back around that corner. I think I've addressed y'all's concerns. If you have anything else, I'll be happy to leave a card and give me.
How close is that to Long's driveway?
So the dashed lines, and Bryce may know this more than me, the outer lines are the property lines. The dashed lines are the current setbacks. So it could be 10, 20, 15, if you happen to know.
I've got them right here. 20 feet on the sides.
Okay, so at a minimum right now, that dashed line, if you see the word kiosk or playground, the dashed line that backs up is 20 feet from your mother's property line. Okay, so that side setback basically says that everything that occurs has to occur further than 20 feet from her property line. So within that 20 feet is also where Bryce and them would decide if there's a fence, or as we get through building, the fence would be along that outer line, and then the landscaping would be in that 20 feet, creating the buffer between the townhouses and your mother's property. Any other questions?
40 seconds of rebuttal time left.
All right. Do you guys have any questions before I get my 40 seconds?
We'll do that. Any other comments?
Are they going to tear down the duplexes on the other side of it?
I do not own the duplexes or any of the thing on the backside of Hardy with.
No, the little white apartments that you're paying on the back, near the church, between the church and.
Any structure that's currently on that property would be torn down for this development to come in. Anything outside of that property line, I don't own and wouldn't be part of my project.
Public hearing is closed. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, with the thought process of being very sensitive to the integrity of the community, I will make a motion we approve this request.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion, am I right?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. Down there where the retention pond is, and those parking places that are in front, I guess that's just overflow parking. Could that be utilized to make a cul-de-sac for, is that big? Is there enough room to make a cul-de-sac for a fire truck to turn around?
Specifically, when I spoke to Chuck earlier in the week, units like 13, 14, some of those parking and turnaround for emergency.
And one more quick question. I know you talked about turning those first three facing the road. Does that not make it just a little more hazardous backing out into South Broad versus backing out into the development?
So obviously there, as the engineering, the site plan and the engineering drawings are done, there'll be some form of probably a decel lane added out there at the street for access into the community. Prior to Bryce saying, recommending maybe turning the first 3 units, I was also going to say that you could separate and push those units back a little bit. And if unit 12 needed to have a porch that made it a front-facing to South Broad unit, that was not going to be a problem. But it could be solved either way. If I can get 2 units to face front or push back and make unit 12 a front-facing so that the whole edge of the building looks like a front-facing unit, that's not a problem. It just didn't have a chance to talk to Bryce about that. By sliding all those units back towards the rear setback, I would be able to put a porch on the front of unit 12 and make it a front-facing.
Are you planning on gating it?
We had discussed it.
It's not.
I don't have a firm yes or
Okay.
no. I think at a minimum, there would be a fence around the property. Whether or not it's a controlled access gate in and out, we hadn't really gotten that far.
That's fine. Thank you.
Couple of questions, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
These dots represents the actual number of units.
Yes.
So we're not talking about 18, we're talking about 28.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. It's 28 on this one. My property across the street was 18. I apologize if I said 18. It is 20. This is 28. I apologize.
Could I ask another question along the lines of these condos or?
No, they're fee simple ownership. Each one, currently, each one is planned to be built and sold as fee simple ownership.
Tell me about what price range you're talking
Yes,
about?
sir. Right now, currently on the price project across the street, we're looking at the low 300s. There's some stuff, comparables on the other side of South Broad or in more downtown, just along Broad Street, that are selling for $319 up to $359 with a 1-car garage. These are all 2-car garages and about 1,600 square feet. They are a little bit bigger than the ones in downtown, but our pro forma right now has us at about 309,000.
Bryce, do we have another new subdivision being projected to come to Rome where it's being allowed to pull an emergency vehicle down in and back out?
Not that I'm aware of.
Does it not give you pause to recommend to put such a, like, 28 units in a neighborhood where it can't be adequate served with fire truck or emergency vehicles?
Because this is conceptual site plan, it's not gonna, nobody will get any sort of permits until the fire marshal's willing to sign off on it. So this is subject to change, and my office is, you know, we put very little faith in conceptual site plans because they're so subject to change. They're usually someone's best wish of what I hope to build. Once you get into the engineering phase, usually people come back down to earth.
Yeah, all we're doing is approving the rezoning, and I guarantee you, Commissioner, there's gonna be a whole lot of eyeballs on it, before it's approved.
Well, I also want the neighborhood and the constituents that live in South Rome area to understand that what this is actually doing to their tax base. And I'm also trying to understand and be a good steward while I sit in the seat as to protecting those type things. And with it not ever being a subdivision, I have seen you come up here and recommend, not blaming that on you. I'm not understanding the weight of the planning commissioner saying wait and deny it versus the situation we find ourselves in now. I think that what the planning commission is saying, give the emergency vehicle departments opportunity to put their eyeballs on this. Give all the other aspects of what this subdivision is bringing to the table opportunity to examine it as well. I would say.
And again, this is not approving this subdivision, this is only rezoning.
And I'm understanding that the weight in which commissioners put on their divisions, their departments by approving such. But again, I haven't seen through this commission, and you represent us on the planning commission, where they telling us, hey, wait a minute, we denying this 9-0.
But they have the same concerns as to what they're going to have to go through with the fire codes and everything right
And
there.
so does the community. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone to my left?
And I do have a concern too. Mine is that you had mentioned that the parking that you want, there will be no parking on the streets. You have a Etowah nursing home, you have the funeral home, and then you have apartment complex. And I see the parking that you have and the additional parking that has it on the other side. But what happens when everybody who lives in the house has multiple cars? What happens when they have guests? What happens during the holidays? How are you going to confine everybody into that little space without parking on the street?
Well, so.
We're closed. Public hearing's closed.
But I don't see how you can limit the parking to just that little narrow area. I just don't see that. And then you have emergency vehicles that have to come in without having to back out. I just don't see that.
So I will say that each unit, they're required to have 2 parking spaces per unit, and this appears to have overflow parking for additional, whether that be guests or whatever.
But look at the space.
I'm sorry, so look at
So
the what?
look at the space, but look at the space. Look at the additional parking. You said that many units. You might have a spouse, children, driving. It is family, because I see a playground.
So if I understood correctly, there's a 2-car garage, and they also all show a driveway in front of them. So you're talking 3, possibly 4 spaces per unit, more than we require.
I just don't see it. I've seen a lot of apartment complexes. I've seen a lot of housing complexes. And I've seen multiple cars parking on the street. That's a lot of activity trying to go down that area. That's just a lot.
Any other discussion? Any other questions?
Just, can you give us a little more insight why the planning commission denied the request?
I believe it was just that we received the site plan so late in the game. But as y'all know, this is conceptual. It's going to meet the ULDC. It has to, or it doesn't get permits. Yeah, and that's the code y'all have been approving for 24 years.
What code is that, Bryce?
Unified Land Development Code, the ULDC.
Bryce, if I'm correct, we have approved a lot of multifamily developments throughout both sides of Maple,
We're in the thousands now, yes,
everywhere.
all across Floyd County.
This is just simply a rezoning.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Clerk, if you will call the roll.
Before he does that, Commissioner, would you consider amending your motion for additional parking to require that they have additional parking for the overflow?
Well, again, all we're actually doing is the zoning.
But we're zoning it without, he presented a site plan and we're asking to rezone it, but we're asking to do something that's been presented to us, so I'm just asking.
But this is only a conceptual plan. It's not
Right.
an actual site plan. It's not a development.
It still has to go through all of that legwork.
I believe, I don't want to speak for you, Commissioner Beam, but I believe what Commissioner Beaman is asking for is to put a stipulation on there that since the ULDC requires 2 parking spaces per townhome, to make it an additional 50% of parking over and above that as a stipulation, regardless of what the site plan winds up looking like. Am I saying that?
That's correct. That is correct.
Is that a current stipulation of the ULDC?
No, it's just 2 per townhome, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
So for the purpose of the motion that is before us, which is simply a rezoning request, let's vote on the rezoning request, and let's address the ULDC in a different motion. Okay?
Okay.
Clerk, if you will, call the roll. We have a motion to approve.
Approve the rezoning. Commissioner Bojo?
Yes.
Brock? Yes. Cochran?
Yes.
Beeman?
Yes.
Doss?
Yes.
Quick?
Yes.
Collins?
No?
Robinson?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Commissioner Quick?
Okay, along in the same area, Z24-06-15 is a request to rezone from high-density traditional residential to multifamily residential for the property at 808 South Broad Street, Rome, Georgia 30161, Floyd County tax parcel I14Z080. Again, Planning Commission denial of 8-1. Bryce?
All right, so this is the exact same project. This is just the property that fronts on South Broad Street. So I won't bore you with the same details over and over again, but map of the area. Site plan, same as you've seen already. Renderings of what the proposed units could look like. The only difference is this has pictures that show what South Broad Street looks like as opposed to Hardy Avenue. There's the house that currently sits on the property. Looking up South Broad Street. Looking further down towards water reclamation and the nursing home directly across the street. As I said, this does come with a staff recommendation of approval, and the Planning Commission chose to deny. Thank you.
As I open the public hearing, is anyone here to speak in favor? If you will, go to the podium and give us your name and address. You have 10 minutes.
Scott McLean, 116 Linton Street, Woodstock, Georgia. I'll take this time to kind of talk to Commissioner Collins and Commissioner Beeman about some of your concerns. And I understand, like we said, this is just about the rezoning to have it open to the next line of approvals. And I'm happy to take all that under consideration. Obviously, in today's interest rate markets and those kind of things, first-time home buyers are at the highest price they've ever paid for homes, and you say $300,000 for a first-time home, and everybody's like, wow, that's a lot. I will do everything in my power to make sure that it stays around that number, pending development costs and acquisition costs. I'm not in this to go boom or bust per se, and I'm very open to building them affordably and to making them affordable for everybody to buy. It's in my best interest to do it that way. As far as the taxes of the neighbors and stuff like that, obviously, as things change and new houses are brought in, people's tax assessments go up, but so do their property values. And I'm not trying to force anybody out to sell or have to sell based off of property taxes going up. But as affordable housing comes in, and in that area, I feel like it is needed in that area, it may help their property values so that when those homeowners do decide to sell, that they're in the best place to get the most for their current homes. And understanding that it may cause some of their property taxes to go up in the time being, but the long-term benefit of the community or the value of those houses, I hope to help them in the long term. As far as making them architecturally appealing, there are a lot of houses in that area that do need to be brought up architecturally, and hopefully if you know, my community is built in a manner that makes other people want to get out and do some things on their houses to try and bring that up. I hope that works. As far as the parking goes, it has come up now 2 or 3 times that the funeral homes parking, or if there's a funeral in progress, that's going to cause problems within this community. And unfortunately, I can't control that within the community. I can say, like you said, that once we go through the next round of approvals and these buildings get pushed back and we do some of the things that we did see off of the initial drawing, I do think that the driveways give plenty enough parking within the driveway that there's no reason for anybody to be parking in the street. If you had 2 cars parked in the garage and 2 cars parked in your driveway, because your driveway is long enough to have that, being the capability of having 2 cars parked there, you now have access for 4 vehicles per unit in your house. And hopefully there is no reason for anybody to be parking in the street. As we widen those streets out, the goal of this is to make sure that there's enough for a fire truck or an ambulance to be able to get down there and turn around without having to back out. Obviously, that is not optimal. Is it allowable by code? It is, but we'll try to push this to make it so that the streets are as wide as we can make them, and access, the accessibility for emergency vehicles is taken care of. Like I said, if you saw the picture out on South Broad, I don't think that in the decel lane, there won't be any parking out there on South Broad causing any problems. From within the community, you won't be able to park on South Broad. You'll have a decel lane that allows you to turn into the community, of which you progress to your unit, and then you park in the driveway or in the garage. And then just from what we've seen, there's probably, and I'm gonna say offhand, there's 10 additional parking spots that are within the community for visitors parking. So I hope that we'll be able to maximize parking within the community. Thank you for your time.
Anyone here to speak in opposition? Oh, you're here to speak in favor, I'm sorry. He's here to speak in favor. He's still got the balance of 10 minutes, probably what, 7 minutes?
6 minutes, 6 seconds.
6 minutes, 6 seconds.
Matthew Spira, 5980 Willow Oak Pass, Cumming, Georgia, 30040. I'm the owner of 808 South Broad Street. Again, as I shared with you before, I think this would be a great value to the community, would add some additional housing that would help the residents there. I know they mentioned about traffic. As the location, as I described before, it is on South Broad Street. I don't know if South Broad is considered a county street, or it's not one of these back streets on Pennington or Hardy Avenue, but it is a main, I think it's a county street, I'm not sure. But it's a street that a lot of traffic flows back and forth, going in and out of downtown city of Rome. So I think the location and what's around it makes it definitely appealing for this type of project to add value to the overall neighborhood. And as Scott said, I think he's going to do a great job in regards to the design and architect, and make sure that he addresses any concerns as he goes through the process. Thank you.
Okay, anyone here to speak in opposition? If you will give us your name and address, you've got 10 minutes.
My name's David Williams. I live at 118 Woodcrest in South Rome. I'm going to talk to you more about process than I am about the actual aspects of the property. Residents of South Rome are in favor of development, particularly when it's in keeping with the other features of the community. So we're not opposed to development. But what we thought we had done, we came to the Planning Commission, where none of us are familiar with it, so we're all kind of first time trying to figure out how it all works. And we thought at the end of that we had an agreement with the Planning Commission that they would put this in abeyance. That's what a particular vote, to just put it on hold long enough for some of the more particular pieces of this. Things like, I'm reading this Unified Land Development Code, section 3.5, and it talks about how much room you've got to have on South Broad. It's got to meet this amount of, it's got to have this amount of frontage. I don't think this meets that. We had several questions. We just wanted those things addressed. And to all of us who were there, it appears that your best effort to try to understand what's going to happen gets pushed aside, and we're just going to vote for the rezoning, and that starts the ball rolling in a situation where we can't see what's happening. This is our only opportunity to see what's going to happen with this development, and we were sure when we sat in that planning commission the other day that we had in fact accomplished that. Nope. We get here tonight and we find out this thing's just going to go right through. So this isn't an objection to your property development. It's an objection to your process that we thought we had in good faith made our case, and that group of volunteers had said, hey, let's put this thing in abeyance and look at some more graphics and whatever, and then we could come back and take a look at it again. I'm sorry I'm boring you, Mr. Bojo.
I'm sorry, I've been up since 3:30 this morning.
This is important to us. And I know, I can see what's getting ready to happen. It's beyond us to be able to slow this down. But we thought we were following the process, and apparently the process has got so much grease on it that we can't affect that. And it's unfortunate. So that's all we've got.
Anyone else speak in opposition? You will give us your name and address again, please.
I'm Shaylin Johnson. My address is 22 Tomassi Lane, Rome, Georgia. I speak only of I understand the economic development. I'm just speaking from a younger perspective, from a younger spot, and I heard a lot about affordable housing and things of that sort. And I look at a lot of the houses in South Rome, and I look at a lot of the people as someone who goes to church on Nixon Avenue most of my life. The economic development absolutely could be better. However, you got to understand that a lot of these people don't have $300,000 to buy a condo. And as we speak about this, you have families there, and then the property taxes will rise. Once the property taxes rise, that will then drive these families out of their homes if they're not able to afford it. And then that goes back to what they've worked hard for. And I just look at it as I am asking and pleading that there could be a way to actually make it affordable housing. If you want to build up an economic value there, allow the people that have lived there maybe the opportunity to live in better. But that would be pricing it in a way that people are able to live. Because $300,000 is not, that's not livable, especially for the economic development that needs to be there. Especially for the people who have lived there most of their lives. And the people that are actually trying to make a living, that's not affordable. So I just plead to you that sounds great, whatever, if it gets through, but it's just more of the fact that there's people who have really worked hard to have what they have now, and it's not fair to them that their property value will go up. Yeah, if they ever wanted to sell, that would be great on their end, but if they can't afford it, then that's on them. So I just ask that you please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Anyone else speak in opposition?
Hello, and I'm going to make it quick. My name is Judy Morgan. I live at 323 Greenwood Avenue out in West Rome. I'll support Shaylin when she says, about the development down there in South Rome. My family and I, we own property down there also, in the 900 block of South Broad Street. So I think it would be unfair to have housing called in affordable at $300,000 when people cannot afford it. So where would they go? Property taxes go up. How are they gonna live? How are they gonna take care of their family? So I support them. I kind of don't agree with it. Thank you.
Anyone else speak in opposition? Bryce, let me ask you a question. I didn't understand exactly what is going to be built on this property.
That's a good question, and I can't fully answer it. We have a conceptual site plan, but the zoning allows for an apartment building, duplexes, townhouses. I cannot stand here and guarantee you that you're going to get townhouses. I just can't do that.
Is that why the Planning Commission voted it down?
I don't know the answer to that. I do want to address the gentleman's comments. You guys actually did an ordinance amendment in 2020, and prior to that, you couldn't do townhouses along a major road There was a 300-foot requirement, and we actually amended that, and it's either 20 or 21, and that was to allow for the enclave on Second Avenue. And as a matter of fact, major roads are where you want to see multifamily. You want to see it close to the bus lines. You want to see it where we have sidewalks. It was a horrible idea, and I'm glad we did away with it. The gentleman was correct as of 2020. I believe he's just looking at an outdated copy. So there is no issue there.
Is there a current building on that property?
There's an old house, which you saw pictured here.
Could be next one.
All right, I close public hearing, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I will again make a motion that we make the recommendation to approve, but again, with the general consensus of knowing that we want to maintain the integrity of the community.
Have a motion, need a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion, am I right?
Just a couple of words, Mr. Mayor, if I may. First off, I want to say to Scott and say to the secretary or either the member of the South Rome community that got up and spoke, to the NAACP chair, Mr. Jackson, and all of you guys that sit there knowing that Scott probably don't know, and I got to give up all respect to what he had to say, that this will be a good highlight film to take back to your meeting and let them see, because it couldn't have been said better than how Mr. Scott laid it out to you. You see, Mr. Scott, that area that we're talking about is predominantly black, African Americans that live there most of their life. Economics plays a role in things that are built in that area. A good example of that is what the person from the Planning Commission had to say was the fact that this government has a track record of dealing with tax credited homes in South Rome, as the director of planning well know. They scattered throughout South Rome, making it affordable to the people who stay in that area and continue to raise their family traditionally. This commissioners have over the years have supported and still do affordable houses to be sold at rates like $110,000. New homes throughout that area. I'm not saying what you bringing to the table is any kind of way wrong. But I do want the community of these African Americans down there to understand what's coming down the pipeline with the government that you're facing now. It's changing. Good example of what he just said, the process. It didn't work, not this time, not through the Planning Commission. As you well see, that step, is just like he said, was taken out of the equation tonight. And it's going to sail through to the next step. And rest assured, that won't be the only Scott that you'll see coming forward. I'll put it to you this way, and I'm not just talking to South Rome. You see, a few months back, the developers in Rome learned that it's out of land in these outstretched areas. The big developers are coming in from everywhere and they're buying up all that. There's nowhere else to go but the infill. Who lives in the infill? Your property is being bought up. And it's going to be developed by some more Scots. I would think that I would lobby this commission maybe get back on the track that they was on by helping you hold your communities in place. Take this film tonight, which you can go online and get. Share with your constituents. This is not the first and last time that this is going to take place. Scott, again, thank you for your words and your development. And man, that's all I got.
I got one thing to say to Bill, and I appreciate everything he says. He's my friend. The houses that the land bank have put in over there in scattered areas has been a plus in my viewpoint. They built some houses on lots that were abandoned, you know, just whatever there, and they put really nice homes on there. And I think that benefits the neighborhood. I mean, progress is tough sometimes, but it's mostly good. And so I like the development, bringing new development into an area that majority of these people that have bought these homes have been from out of town, right? I mean, there hasn't been a lot of relocation within, so it's bringing people into town that can continue to benefit the areas. And I totally understand what Bill's saying, but just don't discount that, the benefits of the new developments in our areas. So, thank you.
Anyone on the left? Commissioner Brock?
I would just like to mention 410 Hardy, 412 Hardy, 604 Pennington. Those are the three of the most affordable new construction in the whole county. There's affordable new construction going on in South Rome, and I hope we can keep it going. Land Bank was an instigator in that. We've brought in builders, buying lots that we've had. If you want, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but if you want a subsidized area, you continue to subsidize it. If you want people to have the opportunity to build generational wealth, we're doing the best we can down there. Nobody's going to take a 1,600 square foot townhome with a 2-car garage and compare it to a 1,200 square foot 70-year-old bungalow. The idea that a townhome down the street from your house is automatically going to blow your property values and your taxes up, it doesn't, that's not the way it happens. If the area overall comes up, everybody comes up, everybody benefits.
Anyone else to my left?
So I just want to share also that affordable housing in South Rome is a must. And you have families and generations that are still there who would love to have a house under $300,000. If you look at the market now, if you put a house on real estate on the market right now and it's under $200,000, it doesn't last long. So you're talking about an area that needs new improvements, and we appreciate the fact that you've even considered coming to Rome, wanting to go to South Rome and build new developments. But I agree with Ms. Johnson. The problem is that you're going to make a lot of the people who live there now, tax basis will go, I mean, their property taxes will go up. But then you have new people that may want to come in also who are going to go to an area that does need improvement, that does need growth, potential growth, but who can really afford it? And then it's like, are we being punished for wanting growth, but are we included in the growth? So, and then I was a little disappointed too, because I didn't hear my amendment proposed in the motion.
Anyone else to my left?
I just mentioned one thing with that. If you build houses for people, it's less expensive than building houses for people and cars.
Commissioner Cochran?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm sorry I forgot your name, to the gentleman talking about process with the Unified Land Development Code, I'm sorry. That code has been the bane of my existence for the past 53 months. So You're exactly right. The process is flawed. The process is imperfect. The process is, it's transparent, but the goal of the process at the end of the day, what we receive is whether or not we're going to take a piece of property, regardless of what goes on it, and zone it from one way to the other. Where it gets confusing, rightfully so, is when you have someone like Scott who brings a site plan, and it may not be completely finished, but people see something and they automatically associate, well, this is what it's going to be. And the truth of the matter is, if we rezone this tonight, it doesn't have to be that at all. And so there's a disconnect in there where neighborhoods and people are rightfully confused about what the end product will look like and the rezoning process. Hopefully when we get the ULDC rewritten in some shape, form, or fashion, we can take care of that. But at the present moment, you are 100% right. The process is less than ideal.
Manager, any idea when it might be written?
I'm sorry?
I was asking Mr. Manager, is there any idea when you think that the ULDC rewrite be completed?
That is an excellent question, Commissioner Collins, and I believe I heard in caucus earlier today from our planning director, Bryce Wood, that he is indeed working on our ULDC, and I believe we're in Article 3, if I heard correctly, in terms of progress being made. So I don't have a definitive timeline, but
What do you think, Bryce?
I'm sorry?
What you think, when?
I don't really want to speculate at the moment, just because we're having some staffing issues, so.
Let me address your comments about the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is a joint commission between the city and the county, and they make recommendations to the county commission and the city commission. And the commissions are the elected officials, and we're the final say. We went for a long time in this community without growth. We lost a lot of manufacturing jobs that we didn't replace, and all of a sudden, we kind of made a statement that we're open for business, and we made some changes, and we're going about bringing jobs in a different way than we did in the past. The model that we've got right now works really well. And so you're going to see more jobs coming in here in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. Then I'm the oldest guy over here. They remind me of this a lot. But in my lifetime, we're going to see more jobs than we've seen. With that comes housing. We did a housing summit back in 2019, and we found out that our biggest obstacle was not workers, it was houses for workers. So we sent the word out, we need builders up here. And our local builders were not adequate, there were just not enough builders to build. And so we didn't bring them, they came on their own. Smith Douglas and Wade Journey, some of these huge mega builders started coming in here. We've got probably 7,000 units, either single family or multifamily, just within the city limits of Rome at some stage of development right now. It's going to impact our school system, our public safety. We talked to our chief this evening. We're 19 officers short. It's a challenge for public safety. It's going to be a challenge for our public works people. We've got a challenge for water and sewer. The growth is coming. Some of it's because of what we've done. Some of it's in spite of us because of where we're located. We're in that Alabama, Atlanta, Birmingham, Chattanooga triangle there. And so you got growth coming out of all of those mega population centers there. I do real estate over in Gordon County, Bartow County, up into Whitfield County. The growth is amazing. They're building subdivisions and homes everywhere. And a lot of that we don't have control over. So as these projects come to us, we've got to be open-minded about them. We cannot say we're not going to be a growth community. I'm glad to see some growth in South Rome. South Rome Redevelopment Group, Rome Housing Authority, those people have worked for a long time together, try to get growth in South Rome, also in North Rome and West Rome. We're finally seeing some good growth. I commend people from the outside that are coming into the community to build here. People are investing in Rome and to some extent Floyd County, but in Rome. And I'm glad they're doing it. We will not always get it right. I promise you that as commission, we will not always get it right. But I share your concerns. I really do. I've got a subdivision about to go in my backyard, 375 homes. My neighbors call me and they talk to me about it and they want me to stop it. It's in the county. I don't have any way of stopping it. But it's what we're all faced with right now. So, no other comments? Ms. Clerk, if you will. Call the roll.
Mayor, can I ask one thing? Would you still consider, Commissioner Quick, to include an amendment to require at least 3 parking spaces per townhouse in lieu of the corner lot 2 parking spaces?
Well, again, we're only talking about the rezoning. All of those will be parts that have to go through in the planning process when the final draft is made.
Yeah, we don't even have a conceptual plan of this yet. Call the roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Bojo?
Yes.
Brock? Yes. Cochran?
Yes.
Beeman?
No.
Dawes?
Yes.
Quick?
Yes.
Collins? No. Robinson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Quick, Commissioner Quick.
Let's move on to item G, is the Unified Land Development Code, the ULDC Ordinance Amendment. It is a request to remove the language regarding barber shops and beauty shops and to amend Table 3-2 to allow for barber shops and beauty shops within neighborhood office commercial zoning district.
All right, as we discussed earlier, staff recommended denial of the rezoning application. However, we're not opposed to the business operating in that space. That's a good use of an old building. And this would apply in multiple locations. The other ones that I've turned down are on Shorter Avenue, right in front of College Heights, in that little strip building. This does come with a staff recommendation of approval. It does nothing more than change the use chart to allow for beauty shops and neighborhood office commercial, and removes any restrictions on them regarding the number of chairs you can have in the shop, the hours of operation, et cetera. And this also comes with an approval from the Planning Commission.
Okay, I'll open public hearing. Anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone here to speak in opposition? I'll speak in favor. Okay. If you will, give us your name and address.
Leighton Roberts, 27 Horselake Creek Road here in Rome. I own the property at 401 Glen Milner, and it used to be an eyesore. And I hope that y'all agree with me now that it's really pretty, inside and out. We have a great tenant in there, and I think that they want to grow their business. They're limited under the current NOC right now of 2 stylists, and they would like to grow that to about 6. And so I would just ask you to vote yes upon the recommendation of the zoning and planning. Thank you.
Anyone speak in opposition? I'll close the public hearing and we'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve this.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor. Beauty shops, do they include nail salons?
I consider that an auxiliary or accessory use to a beauty salon, so the way I interpret it.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, that was vague. Or I was vague.
Some of them are also in the beauty salons anyway, the nail salons.
That's right.
It is. Nail salons in the ULDC currently, correct?
I believe it is.
Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Anyone to my right? Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Bojo?
Yes.
Brock?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Beeman,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Quick,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes?
Robinson.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Quick. Thank you, Bryce.
Yes, sir.
Good job, Bryce.
Thank you, sir.
You get time and a half this month.
Why you can't finish your ULDC, right?
You know I have nothing to do with you pay, so I'm kidding. Mr. Clerk, you have anything?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of announcements. This coming Wednesday, we will see some closures of the Rome administrative offices along with the Walker Mountain landfill in observance of the Juneteenth holiday on Wednesday, June 19th. And then, since we have got another holiday coming up prior to our next meeting, the Independence Day holiday on Thursday, July the 4th. And for those interested in garbage, the Monday and Tuesday garbage, yard waste, and recycling will be serviced as normal. Thursday's garbage and yard waste and recycling will be picked up a day early on Wednesday. And Friday service will be as normal. The Walker Mountain landfill will be closed on Thursday, July 4th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. No report. Under my time, the Rome Floyd Development Authority will meet Tuesday, June the 18th at 9 a.m. at 800 Broad Street. And the Rome City Commissioners will be attending the Georgia Municipal Association 2024 Annual Conference from June the 21st to June 25th in Savannah, Georgia. Commissioner Bojo.
I have no report, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Brock.
I would just like to mention that today we signed the first part of the paperwork on the closing on One Orchid Place, Land Bank. It's our first house we built, first one we've sold. It was listed at $200,000. The paperwork will be completed Wednesday, so proud of the efforts of the Land Bank.
Hear good things about the Land Bank. Commissioner Cochran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Historic Preservation Commission will meet tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. in these chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Beeman.
Just one committee meeting. The Tourism Committee will meet Wednesday, June the 26th at 11:45 a.m. at the Rome Civic Center. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Doss.
Just very quickly, Public Works, Traffic, Transit, and Trails met last week, and at our next meeting, we will get an update on our West Third development, the Nova development, and also we haven't had a ceremony yet, but our loop is complete. And when I say our trail loop, you can park at Mount Berry, at the trailhead there, behind the post office. You can park at Ridge Ferry Park. You can park downtown, but the loop actually is about 8 miles, and the last little part was the connector at the Armurchie connector, that connect the back of the trail, which is behind the Emperor Stadium, and then the end of the Mount Berry portion. But I would just tell you to check it out. It's just a fantastic trail, and there's not a bad part to it, and it's a loop. It's our first loop in the history of our city trail system. So, and that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Quick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one announcement. The Rome-Floyd County Planning Commission, due to the July 4th date, we will have a second Rome-Floyd County Commission meeting on Thursday, June 27th, 2:30 p.m. here in the Commission chambers. And also want to add, we're talking about the Land Bank Authority a little bit and some of the great work that it's done. To kind of give you an idea as to how positive the Land Bank Authority has been, today I was on a Zoom call and we're talking about a meeting that's going to be taking place Monday in Savannah. But one of the highlights of one of the state representatives stated that Rome-Floyd County Land Bank Authority is the model for the state of Georgia. I think we need to be very, very proud of that and all of the work. And I know, Commissioner Brock, you have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that through the years as well. and I want everyone to know what an outstanding organization we have for meeting that workforce and affordable housing in our community.
Thank you, Commissioner Crick. Commissioner Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will tell you, the Rome Floyd Park and Recreation, me and Sammy will be meeting tomorrow at 12 noon at the main office on Short Avenue. That is my report.
Commissioner Robinson.
Mayor, we got the Alcohol Control Commission meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, June 18th at 5 o'clock. Be right here in this commission chambers. Anyone's welcome to attend. And also the July 1st Friday concert. July 1st Friday concert will be held on Friday, July 5th at 7 o'clock at the Town Green, and the musical guests for the evening will be Carl and the Floorwalkers, and also the Georgia Thunderbirds. You don't want to miss it.
I just want to mention one other thing. Before caucus, we traveled up on Jackson Hill and looked at the existing water department. But we also went out on Technology Parkway and looked at the new police department out there. And Rodney Bailey, I want to commend you and our chief and the entire command staff and Becky Smith and everybody in purchasing and Sammy and Meredith and anybody and everybody that was involved. And I've been in that building a number of times, but what they did to transition that building into a public safety or a police department building in a short period of time was amazing. I mean, it was just absolutely fantastic. So y'all pat yourselves on the back. You did a great job. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
I'm sorry? I'm not going to, GMA.